as the poll suggested, I think you guys are on the right place. We're here to talk about what's new in SSRS 2016 today. So first I'll just introduce myself. Let's see. So my name is Brad Gall. I'm a senior consultant here with Pragmatic Works. You can see my contact information there on the screen if you guys need to reach out after the webinar. Feel free to do so. There's my email. I have a blog at bradgall.com. What I'll do is put the slides up on my blog after the presentation, and then I also tweet at Brad Gall SQL here and there as well. A little bit more about myself. I've been working with SQL and SharePoint, Microsoft BI for over 10 years now. It's hard to believe I've been in IT for going on over 15 years now overall. I like to speak at user groups and webinars when I can. I like getting out in the community. In my spare time, I'm usually chasing rugrats. And I used to reside in Cincinnati, Ohio, but recently moved down here to sunny Jacksonville, Florida about 3 months ago. So for our agenda today, basically it's going to be a little bit of slide deck, just going through what some of the new features are in SSRS, because we finally have some new features. It's been a long time since we've gotten anything new with SSRS, so your report developers out there, you finally get some new toys. But most of the time we're going to do demos. So I really want to get you into and show you how to get going with the new features, particularly the new dashboards that are available with SSRS. So that'll be the bulk of our time today. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. So what's new in SSRS? It's really the first significant update they've had since SQL 2008 R2, so it's been roughly 6 years since they've really put anything into SSRS. It's kind of amazing actually that the product is even kind of stuck around. It kind of shows how ingrained it is in a lot of organizations that after 6 years of no updates, Microsoft has come back to it and decided to invest some money into it. And really a large part of that investment was with the acquisition of a product called Dataset. The reason I'm going over this is you'll probably see Dataset come up maybe when you're doing searches online trying to find things about the mobile report publisher that we'll see here in a little bit. And so it's good to know that that's kind of the product that this all grew out of, so you don't get confused and go and try and find this new product, Dataset, that you've heard about. It's actually been incorporated into SSRS 2016. The acquisition was made roughly April of last year, and like I said, it's a major part of this release, and you'll see that when we get into our demos. Sorry, 1 second here. I'm going to shift screens for a minute. So what's new in general? They did come out with a new web portal, so that's something else we'll navigate some today. The old native SQL Server web portal was really showing its age until this release. They have made it look a lot nicer. It looks a lot more ready for things like tablets. So we'll take a look at that. That's a much needed improvement there. They also updated the report builder a fair amount. They did some things like, it's mostly cosmetic there, but they made it higher DPI for higher resolution screens and kind of just cleaned up the colors, and again, it's needed a little bit of a facelift in general. The big improvements are our new report types. So these are the pieces that came from that Dataset acquisition. We have some new report types called dashboards. Those dashboards can actually be turned into mobile as well. So we have mobile capabilities built into our Ssr server going forward. And then we also have KPIs built right into the new report builder, built right into the new web portal, and those also integrate into the mobile phone applications as well. We do have a little bit of Power BI integration, so any of you out there that have Power BI already, or you're looking at using Power BI, they're starting to integrate it a little bit. Hopefully in the next few releases, these two will become more tightly integrated, but we have a little bit of integration there now. So let's look at these a little more closely. The new web portal, so look and feel. If you look on the screenshot there on the right, you can see what it looks like. So instead of just folders and links to reports, we actually get some thumbnails of our dashboards now. Those KPIs can be presented right on the web page for a high-level look at a metric for your executives and things like that. Another big and much-needed improvement is that they support HTML5 now. And what that means is that we aren't tied to Internet Explorer as much as we were in the past. So with the HTML5 support, now supports Safari and Chrome. Modern web browser support is basically what they've brought in here. We can now print without Activex Control. So if anybody has had to do the battle of trying to get reports printable on end user machines where your end users don't have administrative access, you know that was a nightmare before in SSRS. They've taken that away, thankfully. They've gotten rid of that Activex Control that was there, and now we can print without having to install anything on the end user's machines. And then finally we get some custom branding. So at the end of the presentation, at the end of the demos, if there's time, I'll show you how we can do some custom branding. And it's pretty simple, and they made it pretty easy for us to add our own custom colors into our web portal. Now those new report types I mentioned are listed here. So we have paginated reports so they broke down the report types now into 3 report types. Paginated reports are what we used to think of as just reports in SSRS, that they just renamed them paginated reports. Each of these different report types, when we go through the demos, you'll see that we build the different pieces of them kind of in 3 different products right now. This is where you can kind of see the fact that they're incorporating the Datazen into their existing SSRS. We do have 2 report developer tools that we'll use with SSRS at the moment, at least. So with paginated reports, we're going to use the report builder or SQL Server data tools as we've done traditionally. With the new report types, the dashboard/mobile reports, there's a new editor called a mobile report publisher. It's really easy to download, and we'll do our mobile report design or development within that editor. And then with the KPI report types, so those are those blocks of red or green metrics at the top of the portal in our screenshot. Those you actually create within the web portal. So we'll create some data sets, leave them in, or integrate those into our SSR server, but we'll actually create the KPIs themselves in the web portal. So 3 different spots to create the 3 different report types right now. That's why I think it's good to get a jump start with this demo and see where you create everything and get through that initial hurdle. After that, I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward how we create these things. I mentioned the report builder, where we build our paginated reports. They did some upgrades in here. I mentioned we have higher DPI for the IDE. So basically this just means that the report builder is going to look nicer on our higher resolution screens than the previous report builders looked. The modernized look, you can see with the screenshot on the right there, they changed the fonts a little bit, and they've given it the Office ribbon feel and like a darker font to it. So it just makes it a nicer interface for our report developers to work in. One thing to note is that we write our data sets within the report builder. So again, in the demos, I think it'll make more sense, but I'm just going to call it out as we go through the different pieces. With data sets, we'll create those within our report builder tool, and then we'll actually consume those with the dashboard tool when we create our mobile dashboards. So some other improvements we have for paginated reports, we have some new charts and gauges. They introduced a couple new ones. For instance, there's a starburst and there's a tree map report. Upgrades some of the gauges. Those are some cosmetic changes there. One of the big ones that people like a lot is the fact that we have a custom parameters pane now, and hopefully in the demo, time permitting, we'll get to that too. Basically, where before you could not move the parameters or order them; they just kind of showed up at the top of the report wherever they landed. Now we can move them around and group them together. It's not a fully customizable. I can't just move the parameters around on the report surface anywhere I want, but within the parameter drop-down, I can move the parameters where I'd like to see them. And then finally, they introduced a PowerPoint export option, so we can integrate our reports into PowerPoint now and have them go straight into a slide deck. Now the mobile report publisher, this is the brand new piece for SSRS. This is the piece that came from Datazen, and so this is all new, brand new with SSRS. One of the things that this new report publisher incorporates is it is a port over of the Datazen, and so it uses the Datazen approach to developing reports. And that approach is what they called a design-first approach. It's a little different than what you might be used to when you used to pop open Report Builder. You go write some queries, get the data in there. Once you had the data in there, you could start laying out some of your controls on the report screen. Hopefully all your data was set up correctly, and then you'd go to preview and start laying things out after you had the data there. What they've done with the DataZen, or with the mobile report publisher, is that you can lay out the dashboards first, get your visuals all straightened out the way you'd like them to look, and then you can write queries and model data to support that dashboard. It's kind of a cool approach. I like it. Basically how they pull it off is they create some simulated data behind the scenes as you're laying out the visuals. And so it actually gives you some data. It makes the report interactive, and you don't have to do any development for those first stages. So you can sit down with your end users, kind of talk to them about what they want to see. If they want to see like a timeline slicer, you may know a little bit about your data to be able to talk to them about what should go into those controls, and you can get your report laid out right away without having to do any development work up front. These dashboards are going to use data sets that are deployed onto the Ssr server. So Mobile Report Publisher is going to connect to our Ssr server and pull down data from data sets that we publish there with our Report Builder tool. The nice thing about these dashboards is that for the first time now with Microsoft, we have an on-prem mobile solution for reporting. So all these dashboards can be easily converted into a mobile layout or a tablet layout, and we'll show you how to do that in the demos. And as long as you can work with your infrastructure team to open up the correct ports and get access into your Ssrs web server, we have applications on iOS, Apple, or iOS, Android, Windows Phone, all the major platforms. They have a mobile app out there for consuming our dashboards. So without having to go to the cloud, we can now get mobile delivery of our reports to our end users. So KPIs, this is another new report type that we just went over a few minutes ago. It's these again are created in the Ssrs portal, so we're not going to use either of the two tools to create the actual KPIs themselves. They're again going to use data sets that have already been deployed to the Ssrs server. So we're going to have data sets out there. Once those are out there, there's we call it a wizard out there within the Ssrs portal that we can create these KPIs. And you can see from the screenshot, these are supposed to be a heads up. Hey, how am I doing on one particular key metric? What you can do is put those on the web portal front page, and they can actually click on these and drill down into other reports. So if something's awry, like so say for instance our average units per customer looks like it's red, they pop open their dashboard, they pop open our report portal, see that, they click on that and pick a report that they'd like to drill into on that data. You also see on the visual there that there's little bar charts and line charts next to that, so we can include a trend set with our KPIs if we'd like. And I already talked about the drill through capability. Now the mobile I already talked about a little bit. The mobile reports are actually integrated into the Power BI app. So this is where they're starting to try and bring Power BI and DataZen together. They have the Power BI mobile app already available out there in all the different stores. What they did was integrate the mobile dashboards from Ssrs into that app. So now when you open up the Power BI app, which you can go download for free, the first thing it's going to ask you is, do you want to connect to Power BI or do you have an Ssrs server that you'd like to connect to? So again, if you've opened up the right ports and you have a URL you can connect to, you can link up your app straight to your Ssrs, and any of these dashboards that we can configure for mobile will be available for your end users. Another option is to check out some Azure VMs or Azure SQL DBs. That could be another way to help you get your Ssrs server exposed out to the internet if that's another way you'd like to choose to do that. So Power BI integration, like I said, has been promised by Microsoft. They're starting to roll it in there. So what we can do with Power BI, if you already have that in your organization, or if you're looking to implement like a combination of Power BI and Ssrs, because they both do have their use cases, what we can do is deploy report charts and graphs out to our Power BI site onto the Power BI dashboards. So Power BI has a concept of dashboards in the PowerBI.com software as a service. And what happens when we deploy those report charts out there, we can see the visual and we can see the data from the SSRS, and when the user clicks on it, it'll actually send them to the link to our SSR server and launch that report. So it's a way they're initially integrating the two reporting tools together. Currently for the on-prem, if you want to integrate Power BI or even Excel into SSRS, you may see some buzz out there a little bit on the internet about this. Right before they launched the full release of SQL 2016, they integrated, quote-unquote, integrated Excel and Power BI into SSRS. Basically, you can save your Power BI desktops files or your Excel files into SSRS. The end users will see a box like it's a file server there. When they click on it, they can then download the file. So you can upload Excel files into SSRS, and users are able to download them. What they haven't added yet is web integration. So it's not like Excel services is within SharePoint. I can't click on the Excel file and have it open up Excel in the browser. The same with Power BI desktop at the moment. That is a feature that everyone is hoping will be coming down the line, though. So with that, I'm going to jump over to demos and show you guys, again, mostly focus on the new mobile report dashboard, but look around a little bit here at the other things as well. And at the end, I see some questions rolling in here and there. I should have plenty of time at the end of this to roll through some of those questions, and anything I don't get to, I'll try and do a follow-up Q&A blog post. So I'm actually working off of an Azure VM with SQL 2016 on it. If you don't know about the Azure VM, it's definitely something you should check out for development. One of the things they just launched 2 days ago is they put out the image for SQL 2016 Development Edition, where you don't actually have to pay for the SQL license out on Azure. You just have to pay for the VM license cost because, again, if you haven't heard this yet either, they actually made the Developer Edition of SQL 2016 free going forward, which is an awesome thing for Microsoft. So you can download SQL 2016 Developer Edition for free and try things out. You don't have to pay for any licensing there. And it's nice that they give you the VM on Azure. You can fire it up pretty quickly. I did this week because my old demos were all on CTP or Release Candidate 3. So to get the latest and greatest, I fired up a new Azure VM and got that up and running. So that's what I'm working off of right now. If I go to Browse here, I just want to show you the front page of the portal. So let's see if my zoom in is working. Cool. So with the portal, here's our portal. Again, brand new look and feel. We get the home bar at the top. I am right now with the out-of-the-box branding. So you have the red and black branding that Microsoft gives you with most SQL Server products. I'm in my home folder right now. One of the things you'll notice, I already created a few folders out here. So I can create folders and divide up my content. So I have one folder for AdventureWorks, some baseball data, that's what we'll be looking in today, and some sample dashboards, which I'll talk about at the end, that one of the Microsoft product evangelists gives us for free that we can go download and play with. And then finally, a mobile report. So I don't have a ton out here right now, just a few things to give you an idea of what things look like. The folders usually show up at the top. Then you'll have a paginated report. If I click in the baseball, you can see what those look like. You get the mobile reports, the paginated reports. I can see my data sets right now in this folder. These can be hidden though if you don't want your users to be able to see those, and then my data sources. So all my different objects that are saved within SSRS can be shown within the views on the SSRS server. Now if I go up here in the top right, show you a little bit more that's going on. If I click this new button here, it'll actually pop down a drop-down list of a lot of the, or basically all the objects that I can create within SSRS. If I do that, you see I have folder, KPI, data source. If I click on folder, it's going to create a new folder for me. It's something I can do right here within the web browser, which is nice. And it should take me into that folder there. If I do new and I try and launch a mobile report. So I mentioned that mobile reports have to be created within the mobile report publisher. So what it's going to do is try to launch mobile report publisher. Let me click cancel on this, and if I pretend I didn't have that already installed, it says, hey, did you run into issues? And they actually give you the link to go and download the mobile report publisher. So that's nice for getting it out to end users maybe. If you have a mobile workforce, or a spread out workforce that has admin access and they're able to install these things, if you can do that straight from within the web portal, you can just go download this from Microsoft and install it. Same with the report builder, it works the same way there as well. Let me cancel that, and we'll go back into that here in 1 second. But the first thing I want to show you to do is if you are installing a new Ssr server and you're trying to get some new data in here and start things out, we're going to walk you through that process next. So the first thing I need to do as after I've installed SSRS is I need to get a data source out here to go pull some data in. So if I go to New and Data Source, this will be done within the SSRS web server. So I already have a few out here, but I'll create one now just to walk you through the process. Let's connect to an old AdventureWorks database. So I'm going to copy and paste that name there. So I give it a name, I can give it a description. This is a new connection, what have you. Here's where I can check to hide it from tile view. I could also do that later if I needed to. And for the connection type, we have a lot of different connections available. We can connect to an Azure SQL DB, a regular SQL database. They added support for Microsoft SharePoint lists, so I can connect to those. I could just use a regular old OLEDB connection, XML, so a NoDBC if you need to connect things like MySQL, stuff like that. Lots of connection types available. And then to create my connection, one of the things they've changed is they don't give you the GUI editor for the connection string anymore. So I have to hand type in my connection string. The nice thing they did is if you click on this Learn More button right next to it, it actually pops you to the MSDN site where I can see all the different connection string types. So if you scroll down a little bit on that site, you can see they give you the data source, basically, hey, what's the scenario you're trying to connect to, and they give you the connection string that you can copy and paste over there for that. So I would just copy and paste this over, edit the data source to be my SQL Server, and edit the national catalog to be my database. I already did that just to save some time. So let me copy and paste that over there. So that's my connection string. Excuse me. I'm going to set it up to use the following credentials because I'm not on Active Directory with this particular box. So I'm going to set it up for database security, log in, and I'll click test connection, make sure we're good, everything checked out, and I'll click create. So that created a data source here within my home folder. So I can click on this guy and see my data source, some properties on this thing. So you can see all the properties I just set up. If I need to go change those or do anything with that, I have a move button up here at the top. So I can move this data source around to a different folder if I decide to move it later on. One of the nice things that I like that they added is, I think they actually had this before, but we have dependent items, so you can click on that button and see what dashboards and what Paginated Reports rely on this data source, so you know what's using the data source going forward. And that's it. I can also delete things up here too, so I can delete and clean out my data sources there as well. If I go back to my home page, so now we have a data source there, and that's how we get started with creating a data source within the reporting services server. Real quick, I'll show you out in my baseball folder, I already have a data source there, and that's one we're going to use for the rest of the demo. So that is another data source I've already saved out. I have a few data sets on that one too. So now you have a data source. I want to take you through creating a mobile report. I mentioned that you have to have some data sets created for your mobile reports to work. So let's just take a look at how that setup works. Let me close out what I had open for the mobile reports. So I've already downloaded the mobile report publisher. If I hadn't though, I could, like I just showed you. If I go to new, I'm going to click mobile report. I'm going to say allow it to open up my mobile report publisher, which should then launch me into my development interface. So that launched my SQL Server mobile report publisher. And I mentioned that within mobile report publisher, they have the design first development approach. And let me make sure one thing here. Okay, so what I can do is lay out my visuals here, and I haven't created any data sets that we're going to use at the moment just yet. So if I lay out, let's say we know we want to have some kind of number up here at the top left, what I can do is drag over my visual and drop it there. I know that they need to have some kind of time slicer. I'm working with them and talking to them about that. So I can grab my time navigator and drag this over. I need to keep, they want some kind of other just slicer. They want to slice it by category. Actually, for our example, what we're going to do is show some salary data of baseball teams over the course of some years. So what we're going to do is slice by baseball teams. So again, I'm going to grab another navigator and drag that selection list over and drag it down. So everything's drag and drop, very touch friendly. Really, this interface was written so that business analysts or business users could really lay these out if they so chose. So I have that data, and the last thing, I'm just going to drag down a time comparison chart. So I'll drag that down. I'm just going to make that take up this space right now. We're going to keep it pretty simple on this demo. And just by dragging those around, if I click on Preview now, I actually get an interactive report, and I can show the user how this report's going to work. So I can click on these selection list items here on the left and see that it's affecting my table here in the middle. I can see how the time slicer works, where I can click and drag and pick different years. I could pick the last 6 months if I wanted to, and it actually changes the time slicer to move around up here. This time slicer is something that came straight from Datazen. It's a really nice time slicer. I like it. I'm hoping they maybe even incorporate it into Power BI or things like that going forward. But for now, within your dashboards, it's a really nice time slicer. Pretty good navigation experience for your users to do time slicing. So that looks good. In general, that's what our report layout should look like for our users. So I'm going to click back on that. And let's take a look a little bit more into our interface here to see kind of where I was going with that. So in the Layout tab is where I lay out my design elements. I drug those over there like that. Underneath the layout are the different objects we have. So if I go scroll down these a little bit, under the Navigator section, these are going to be the pieces that will slice my data up. So Datazen is fairly interactive. If I click on, say, it's not exactly like Power BI, where if I click on a bar within a bar chart, it filters everything else on the screen. The only way to filter other things on the screen are by using these navigators. They've given us some nice ones, though, where we have the Time Navigator. The Scorecard Grid is like the selection list that I just selected, only it will show you like a little KPI to see how each particular, in our example, each team is doing, and give you a little bit more information that way. If I scroll down, we have lots of gauges here. So different gauges to show how actuals are going versus estimates, things like that. Pretty much everything in Datazen, since it's a dashboard reporting tool, is written so that you can do a heads up of how is my business doing at a high level. That's really what we should be creating with our dashboards, not necessarily a big 15-page report of each individual line item of things. These dashboards should be high level. In 2013, how did I do versus what my goal is? And that's what Datazen and what Mobile Report Publisher really excels at. So I'm going to call, if I want to change the name of this report, I'll call this SSRS demo here. You just double click on the name of that and rename it. I'm sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit. If I keep scrolling down, charts, we have lots of different charts, pie chart, funnel chart, a tree map there, time chart, which is what we just used. If I scroll down a little bit more, we have maps and we have data grids. So we can do some things with maps to show how data is laid out over a map. And for data grids is to get a little bit more of that detailed level data. Again, it's a dashboard though. You only get the one screen within Datazen. It's not a multi-page design interface here. One screen, a heads-up screen, but we can put some details of data grids on those. Like I just jumped ahead to a little bit, is if you click on the name of your dashboard, you can name it right there. And if I want to save this guy now, so just to get a saved copy of what we've done so far, what I can do is connect this to my Ssrs server. So if I click on the connection button up here on the top, this button right here is my connection button. I've already got a server connected here locally, but I could click this add new server connection, and basically I just need to give it my Ssrs report server URL, which I've already done in my example. So this, for my instance, it's gall-SQL 2016 dev, and then /reports is my URL, the username and password, and I can connect to that. So I've already connected to that. With that connected, now when I go to save my report, so I have two options. I have save, or this button will do a save as. So I can do save as on this. It's going to ask me where I would like to save this. I can save a local copy of it, so I can save it onto my file system and just be able to open it within Report Publisher. But if I want to publish this out to let other people look at it, I'm going to save it to an Ssrs server. So I'm going to select this option on the right. Like I said, I've already connected to my server. It may ask you the first time for your server. After that, it stops prompting you. I got my report name, my server name. If I click Browse here, it'll open up and you'll see the different folders that I have available on my Ssrs server. So let's just go ahead and put this into, we'll do it into the baseball data here. And this looks good. And we got the name, so I'll click Save. So with that saved, let's go back out to the report server just to see that it's saved out there. Let's close this. I'm in my baseball folder. I'll click refresh. And our Ssrs demo is out there now. So I can click on this guy. And again, everything's fully interactive here. So I haven't added any data to this yet. This is still all just dummy data, simulated data. But I can deploy this out there and let end users see how things look and feel and start getting basically all the visual stuff set up. Now, if I want to add my own data, what I can do to do that is I need to create a data set on the server and pull that down into the mobile report that I just created. Now, to create the data sets, unfortunately, it's in another, it's in the report builder tool, not the mobile publisher tool. So what I will do is, let's go back to browse here. I'm going to go back to baseball. I'm going to say new, and I'm going to say data set this time. So if I click on new and then data set, it's going to tell me, hey, you need to go launch the report builder. So I'll do that. It should launch report builder for me. And I've been in here working a little bit, so I have some data sources I've already linked up to. If I didn't have any data sources here, I would click on Browse Other Data Sources, and I could, now I'm on my server, and I can go and look at, go hunt down the data source I'd like to write this query against. So I'm going to choose baseball and choose this Lawman baseball data source that I had previously set up. I'm going to click on Create. It's going to ask me to log in. Let's go ahead and save the password. And it launches me into a Gui Query Editor here for SQL Server. So I can look on the left here. I see all of the different tables and views that are available in that database I linked to. I have some player data and some other data here. I actually have a query already written for sake of time. So I'm going to grab this query and just copy and paste it over. So if you are able to write queries without having to use the GUI, you can just click on Edit Text, save this. You can also do this for your developers in the audience. You could do this still with SQL Server data tools within Visual Studio and just create the data sets that way. Is still a viable option. So we'll click Save on this guy. It's going to ask me where I want to save it and what I want to name it. So let's do that, and we'll do Ssrs demo again. Demo data set. So that saved that data set. Let me run this so you can see that it pulls back some data. So this is data set, a query that I wrote against my source system that is data I want to report on. And I've saved that out to the Ssr server. Now what I can do is go back to my mobile report publisher and let's pull that data into my mobile report. So to do that, I'm going to go over to my data tab. So we've been in the layout. We looked at the preview a little bit. I'm going to go to my data tab. And you'll see that in the data tab, I have my controls here on the left. So up here on the left, I can see the report elements that I've already drug onto the screen. The number and the selection list, things like that. If I click on any of those, I get some data properties down here at the bottom for them. And you can see right now the series for the chart is all of these simulated tables. And that's what I'm seeing within the middle of my screen for the data that's backing up this report. Now if I want to pull in some new data, what I have to do is click on the Add Data button up here on the top. right, and I can click Add Data, and it's going to ask me where I'd like to pull it from. So I can pull it from Excel, I can pull it from the report server. Let's go ahead and pull it down from the report server. And I can pull from my SSRS demo dataset. Just give it 1 second here. Hopefully it pops up here shortly. There we go. So now it has pulled down our new SSRS demo data set into my mobile report. And what I can do then is click on these report elements, and under the data properties, switch those over to use that new data set. So for instance, for my number here, I want to switch this over to the team salary. So I have the year team total salary. I'm going to switch that over to that. I'm not going to spend too much time in here because just for sake of time, I'll just wire these up really fast. For the time navigator, basically I'm switching over to my data set, and then for the visual of the bar graph, I can pick which number I'd like to aggregate. So I can do same one there, year team total salary. When I click on options, I have a few options for how I'd like to aggregate that. So it does some basic aggregations for us, like sum, count, however I'd like to aggregate that data up to the year level. Selection list, I'm going to switch that over as well very quickly to SSRS demo and to team ID. And over here for that one, we have what we're going to filter the table, how this control will filter other tables. So I don't want it to filter my simulated table. I need this guy to filter my SSRS demo data set instead. So we're going to switch that over, have that filter based off the team ID again. And then last but not least, we'll do the comparison time chart and switch that over. So I know I'm going through this really fast. I basically just wanted to walk you through a beginning to end scenario so you could see it all the way through. Let's do on this guy, it's going to be salary again. Your team total salary. And for the comparison series on this one, we're going to do the year average team salary on that one. So that linked all that up. If we come back to our layout, we should actually see it change over, and you can see I'm seeing baseball team name abbreviations now. I'm seeing data actually for the years I have within my data set. It's switched everything over to my data now. I'll leave that alone for there. I have a cleaned up version that we'll see on the report server, but I can also click preview here. Hopefully this works right now. And I can start interacting and seeing what the data looks like here within my mobile report. So again, I can click on, say, Miami and see the salary by year for that team. For Tampa Bay, you can see how they are doing. So basically these teams have are way underneath what the average salary is for that given year. Pittsburgh, same as there. And I can also zoom in on these given years and see how that team did for each particular year. Now if I want to save this, I can just click Save, and that will save it and publish it back out to the report server. So that has been saved out to the report server and available for end users to view it. Now I mentioned that these dashboard reports are really easy to convert into mobile reports as well. So to do that, it's really simple actually. Up here on the very top right, I have a few buttons. This one will actually let me change the theme and the color scheme of the dashboard itself. This one that's white and it doesn't really give any kind of description of what really it is where we set up our mobile and our tablet viewing. So if I click on that, you see I'm right now checked on the master view. I can switch this over to phone or tablet. Let's just go over to phone. And what I see now is my report elements again and a blank canvas. So I can drag over whatever I'd like to drag over to my mobile phone interface. So I'm going to drag that number over there. Let's just put the selection list here at the top. I like the time navigator, so I'll put that there, and then my time comparison chart. I can drag that down. And that really is all it takes to turn the mobile, or the dashboard, the web dashboard, and turn it into a mobile dashboard. The nice thing about this interface is if, for instance, I had more in my web dashboard than can really fit on a phone screen. Phone's a lot smaller. Maybe I wanted to put a little extra detail on the web that I can't quite fit onto my phone view. So I could take this number off, and let me actually just click on that and delete it, and make the selection list bigger. This isn't the best example, but I don't have to use every report element on the mobile or tablet versions if I don't choose to. Cool thing here too is I can click on preview and you can see what it's going to look like on the mobile phone. So now I can see if I click and hold as I'm dragging over, I can see what the salaries were over time. Again, I can click the drop down and pick a team, see what they were versus the team's salary average that year. I have year level data, so that's why this looks a little weird. I don't really have the last 6 months of data here. I could clean that up if I so choose, if I had time. I'll just show you where we would do that. So I'm in my mobile view still. I'm going to click on the that little drop down up at the top right and switch back to master view. So that's how I did my mobile phone. Again, really easy, really cool that that's how we can get mobile reports out the door nowadays, or now. And what I wanted to show you before we jump back over to the portal for a little bit is if I wanted to clean this up, for instance, for this time slicer, I have this last year and this last 6 months. The number right here just says number 1. Doesn't really have any context to what this number is. All of that is done within my visual properties at the bottom. So when I click on my time slicer, for instance, I look at the bottom of my screen, you can see I have time levels. I have a bunch of different properties for that particular visual. So what I can do is change the time levels. I just want to see years, and I just want to see the all. I don't have last year data in this data set. And let's see here. I think that's it. I can also switch the visualization to be like a line chart. So I changed all those visualizations at the bottom, and you can see it affected and changed my time slicer to look a lot better and a lot cleaner there. Now if I save this again, that would be saved out onto my report server. So if I was doing this as a production report, I would go through each of these different components and set up each of those different visuals the way I would like them to look. For instance, selection list, I can give it team names. You can make it accent, so it'll change the accent of the background of it, things like that. So let's just go see and make sure that that actually did deploy. So let's go back to our report server. And if I go to my baseball tab, I can see my SSRS demo, and if I click on that, we should now see all the changes we just saved into that report. Go one more second here. Give it one more second. I think I might have something going on with my lab. All right. So I already had one done and ready out here that I did earlier, so we'll just open that one up so you can see what it looks like now out here in the Ssr server. So now on this one I had set up, you can see I named it teams and year total salary. I made the teams multi-select. If I click and hold on these, you can see what the value was for each individual year, and I can go and filter it down. So that's what we're trying to get to for our end product with these SSRS mobile dashboards. I want to show you one last thing here within the web portal, and then I see a lot of questions filling in, so I'll probably stop at that point and answer some questions. The last thing I want to show you is there is a settings button up here on the top right, and within the settings, within this gear icon, is where I can do the branding. So if I click on that, I have my settings, my subscriptions, some site settings there. So I'm going to click on site settings. This is something you would see if you're an administrator on the box. A few options here. I can change the name of this. Name this my, oh, never mind, that's not changing. But what I really want to show you is branding. If I go to branding, currently I don't have any brand package installed, so I have the default. If I want to upload a brand package, Microsoft gives you one just to test with out there on the MSDN site. If I click on this one, it's an Xbox branded one. I click on open. It'll upload it to the site, and you can see it changes all of the colors and everything for my SSRS portal. So this one's pretty nasty and ugly, but it's a good example of how much you can change here and make this portal branded to your company at that point. If I wanted to create one of those on my own, what you can do is take those samples. So this is the Xbox. It's just a zip file. If I open that up, what we have here is a JSON file, a logo. So that's where they changed the logo out on the top left, and some metadata. I can edit these files, and if you open them up and take a look at them, they're actually pretty self-explanatory about what you would change. Let's do this. And there are basically hex codes for all the different pieces of all the different elements within the website. So I can go through this and just change all the hex codes to the color codes I would like it to be, save this, re-upload that to the server, and then I can customize it that way. So very cool stuff there. Also switch out the logo. So with that, I know I saw a lot of questions going in, so I think I'm going to switch over to questions now to close out this. Again, I'll save the slide deck out there out onto my blogs, and a few things I want to show you in the slide deck that I have available once I save it out there are so I have some Dataset sources. Really should be SSRS sources, but for the documentation, Dataset site is still up. At least last time I checked it, it was still up, and they had documents of the Dataset components out there, which are still probably some of the better resources for the design piece of the mobile report publisher. So how you set up parameterized queries and things like that has changed a bit, but a lot of the just how the different pieces work is set up in there. There's also a blog for the product manager, Christopher Finland, blogs on SSRS. He does an excellent job putting stuff out there, information out there on that. If you go and open up, or I'll go open up his site and show you that, he actually has right now on his site, if you just go to christopherfinland.com, some free sample mobile reports. One of the nice things Dataset did in the past was give you a lot of sample reports to just see what the different visuals were and how to set them up. He has taken those and made them available for free from his blog. So you can download the sample reports here off his blog site and open them up in the mobile report publisher and take a look at them there and play with them and get a good idea of those. On my site, I actually have those saved out here. I just went ahead and deployed them, and you can see some of the examples he has out here. Total claims dashboard. They're all fully interactive based off some data he created for us. And then finally, in that slide deck too, I have the links to the different publisher pieces. So SQL Server 2016, there's a link there. The mobile report publisher, there's a link directly to the URL. One of the things as I was going through, you may have noticed when I pulled in some of my own data, I had the option to either pull from the Ssr server or from an Excel sheet. So if you want to get into the mobile report publisher and start playing with it before, for instance, you get a chance for your infrastructure team to set up a server for you, you can do that by going and downloading the mobile report publisher directly. And if you have some data in Excel, you can start creating some reports right off that Excel data. So that's another way to kind of jumpstart getting some mobile report publishing going and maybe get some proofs of concepts in front of some management to let them know that you'd like to get 2016 in the door. And report builder download is right there as well. So with that, I'm going to go through some questions now. Let's see what we have here. Will the new web portal replace the SharePoint BI site? Currently, 2016 actually still does have SharePoint integrated mode. I haven't tested it yet, but I don't believe that the mobile report pieces work with the SharePoint integration mode. I haven't tested that yet. I think Microsoft is going away from the SharePoint integrated SSRS with this release. So again, it's still available there, but my feeling is that they're going to migrate away from that. And the sign of that is the fact that they are talking about putting Excel services type functionality into SSRS. It's kind of to me, that's the tip of the hat. That is becoming less of the route going forward. Is it possible to demo a KPI dashboard using cube data? So I didn't have time to switch through the different data sources. Specifically, I have issues passing dynamic parameters. Well, that could be something I could try and put a blog post up on. It does get a little difficult to work with the parameters with SSAS just in general. That's been like something that is, you know, an intermediate type thing with just SSRS in previous versions too. That might be something I can try and do a blog post on going forward, but unfortunately we didn't have time for that one today. Yep, the slides will be available on the blog, bradgall.com, after the meeting. Is there offline reporting capability for mobile reports? Yes. In the old DataZen mobile application, there definitely was. I haven't confirmed. I believe so. It's something I'll have to follow up and confirm on. So the question is are you able to review the reports offline on the mobile report viewers? I believe so. I know the old DataZen mobile report application had a cache basically on the phone, and I'm pretty sure that the Power BI integrated one does, but I'll have to double confirm that to make sure. Would mobile dashboards use shared data sets as well across other reports? Yes. So when we were building those data sources and data sets, once you save them out there to your SSRS server, use them across other reports as well. We're not creating one data set for just one report. When you save them out to the server like we were doing, they're available for any other report to use as well. Is multi-language supported with the translation? So is multi-language supported? I haven't tested the multi-language support of, the only way it would be supported would be via like SSAS with the translations in the multi-dimensional version of SSAS. I don't know that it passes through the locality of the end user or not, so I haven't tested that one yet, but assuming that SSRS passes through the locality of the end user, it may not work, or it may work. Sorry, I haven't tested that one out yet. Are you going to differentiate what features are available in Standard versus Enterprise Edition? That is another great question, actually. They didn't release what was going to be Standard and Enterprise until 2 weeks ago, and I haven't gone through the list yet, to be honest with you. So I believe that the dashboards are all Enterprise only for this. I do know they removed the BI edition of SQL Server 2016, which I was kind of expecting some of this to go into that edition, but they removed it. So I'll have to go follow up on what is available there. Again, that's another good blog post I can follow up with on this week. Can you demo a data set with parameters and let the data set be used for creating a mobile report with drop-down parameters? So again, just for sake of time, I didn't have time to do that demo, but basically on the data set, I would parameterize a where clause onto it. I can maybe show you very quickly on the data sets. If I had created a parameter on the data set, if I click on this gear icon next to the data set, you can see it's grayed out right now. But basically, I would have this button for parameters, excuse me, and when I clicked on it, I could link one of my navigators to the parameter. So for instance, in our example, we had the team names. I could link the team name selection list to a team name parameter, and then that would parameterize the query, which is a good practice if you have a large data set coming into this, to parameterize that to keep the data set size down and keep it running faster. Are you able to demo Power BI with SSRS integration for us? Don't have time for that one right now. Let's see here. So I know I'm not going to get through all the questions. I can demo that one real quick though. So again, we're running short on time, just so everyone knows. What I'll do is do a follow-up blog post, hopefully this week, with the questions I don't get to today. But yeah, I can demo the Power BI integration very quickly. If I go to powerbi.com, I believe I have one out here already. So basically all I have to do to set up the integration is when I'm going through my SSRS configuration wizard, so on the server itself, when I'm configuring SSRS within the configuration manager tool that they give you, they added a new tab at the bottom for Power BI integration. You basically just sign into Power BI on that tab. That's all you need to do. Once you sign in, it gives you the ability to save a wrote chart to, looks like my Power BI. Something's up with my internet connection there. So maybe I won't be able to show it. Again, that could be another follow-up, or I can just tell you how I can walk you through it too. So once you set up that Power BI integration within the SSRS configuration manager, if I have a paginated report with a chart on it, at the top of the chart in your toolbar where you usually see the print and all those type of things, you'll see a little Power BI button. And when you click on that, it'll ask you where you would like to save the chart out to Power BI, and then it'll put onto the dashboard in Power BI. Let's see here. Is there any way to have any data authorization on the data sets? Is there any way, if we need KPI, to have a data security filter operating on it? Is that possible? Yes. So I set up my data source with a hard-coded username and password. If I was on a domain and I wanted to have some dynamic security built into my data, what I would do instead is set it up as Windows integrated, and then generally, if you have like an SSAS source, you could set up some kind of row-level security or something like that and have it filter that way. You can also pass the username along as a parameter and have it filter those. So there's a few options you can definitely pull off doing. Basically, you only see your store sales versus everyone's store sales within one dashboard. Were there any new chart visuals added to the mobile reports which are not available in the DataZen publisher? Nope. So everything, the DataZen publisher is pretty much, if you are familiar with it and you used it before, it almost looks identical within SSRS 2016. So no new visuals there. Let's see here. Are you able to set up subscriptions for Excel or Power BI? To my knowledge, you're not able to set up any subscriptions with the Power BI or the Excel reports yet. You can set up subscriptions for everything else out there, though. Is there a migration strategy for upgrading an existing SSRS 2012 server to SSRS 2016? So yes, there's multiple options there. And one of the things you can do is export all of the reports into yes, there's with the time we have right now, can't really quite get into all the details on it, but yes, there's definitely strategies out there. I haven't seen anyone blog on it yet. It's going to be really similar to if you see anything out there on like migrating from 2012 to 2014, it's going to be a really similar migration pattern. They've added the mobile dashboards for us, but none of that would be available in the old versions of SSRS. A lot of the other things under the hood have stayed the same, so that migration path is going to be really similar to like a 2012 to 2014 out there. Do the data sets and data sources need to be deployed on SSRS? Yes, those do need to be on the SSRS server for everything I showed you today to function. So I think that's all I have time for. There are a lot more questions. So like I said, I'll do a follow-up on that, but we're hitting 12 o'clock now, so I'll let everyone go, and I thank everybody for your time and attentiveness with all the questions. It's great to get that many questions back. And yeah, I'll turn it over to Liz. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks, Brad. As Brad said, you know, he'll make this session all the information available on his blog, and I'll also put it on our blog too as well, so you guys will have that available. If you guys have any further questions, please feel free to email Brad or me, Liz, and I'll be happy to pass along any questions. As always, you will get a copy of or link to the recording of the session tomorrow, and I will also make sure to get all the questions that were answered to Brad later today. So thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.